we are kicking things off with the intense battle for fairness in tennis. Jannik Sinner has issued a strong demand for respect from the Grand Slams, stating that the current prize money situation is unacceptable. Sinner is calling on all tennis players to show respect for their efforts, emphasizing that the current arrangement is not enough for everyone involved in the sport.
Here's a simple way to protect your phone without stress. This ALEN 3-pack comes with tempered glass screen protectors, camera lens protectors, and an installation frame for an easier, cleaner fit. It's clear, case-friendly, and built to help guard against scratches and everyday bumps. Check the link in the comments to get it on Amazon.
Next up, we dive into the broader context behind this growing frustration. Jannik Sinner provided crucial insight into how these demands came about, revealing that the top 10 men's and women's players initiated this conversation last year. He highlighted the lack of productive discussion, comparing the situation to how top athletes in other sports receive immediate meetings after sending similar letters. Now we look at the core of the issue, the feeling of disrespect. Jannik Sinner powerfully argued that the issue isn't just about money. It is fundamentally about respect for the players, not just the top names. He stressed that the players give far more than they are receiving back, and that this concern spans across both the men's and women's sides of the game. Finally, we examine the reaction to these calls for change. Jannik Sinner and Aryna Sabalenka have faced criticism for suggesting a boycott of the Grand Slams, sparking a debate about where the blame should lie. We explore the analysis from Mark Petchey and Coco Vandeweghe, who argue that the focus should shift toward the ATP and WTA Tour, and what this means for the future of the sport. Stay with us for more. Tennis star Jannik Sinner has called for greater respect from Grand Slam tournaments regarding prize money, emphasizing that the issue extends beyond financial figures. Sinner stated that the current situation is unsatisfactory, arguing, "It's more about respect, because I think we give much more than we are getting back. It's not only for the top players, it's for all of us players." Sinner expressed disappointment over the lack of progress in negotiations with the organizers of Wimbledon, the French Open, the US Open, and the Australian Open, noting that players are still far from reaching their desired agreements. This call follows a year where leading players submitted joint letters to the Grand Slam authorities demanding significant increases in prize money, the establishment of a player welfare fund for retirement and maternity benefits, and greater involvement in decision-making processes. The initial targets set by players aimed for a 22% share of tournament revenue, aligning the majors with the combined revenue of the ATP Men's and WTA Tour 9 combined 1,000-level events. The push for better compensation intensified following the French Open's announcement of a 9.5% prize money rise, which players deemed insufficient. A statement from players indicated that a 14% increase in revenue the previous year resulted in only a 5.4% rise in the total prize purse, reducing the players' share to 14.3%. The sentiment for action has been growing, with women's world number 1 Aryna Sabalenka previously suggesting she was prepared to boycott the Grand Slams if players were to force the organizers' hands. Sinner cautiously acknowledged the discussions surrounding boycotts, stating, "So I do understand players talking about boycott because it's somewhere we also need to start. Now it has been a very long time with this. Then we see in the future." Sinner suggested that while money is a factor, respect is paramount, and expressed a willingness to consider player withdrawals in the future. Meanwhile, Sinner prepares to compete in his bid for a record-extending 6th consecutive Master 1000 title on Saturday against either Sebastian Ofner or Alex Michelsen, as he enters a 23-match winning streak. ATP World number 1 Jannik Sinner has weighed in on the ongoing controversy surrounding Grand Slam earnings, joining WTA World number 1 Aryna Sabalenka in addressing tough questions about the issue. Sinner provided crucial context, revealing that a year ago, the top 10 men's and women's players had collectively written a letter concerning player earnings at these major tournaments. Sinner highlighted a perceived lack of productive follow-up, drawing a comparison to how top athletes in other sports typically secure meetings within 48 hours of issuing such a letter, emphasizing the feeling of disrespect felt by the players. He admitted that players feel they are investing more into the Grand Slams than they are receiving in return, noting that this is an issue affecting all players, not just the elite, in both men's and women's tennis. Stressing the importance of players taking a stand to protect their interests and future generations, Sinner stated that the tennis community is currently waiting to see how Wimbledon and the U.S. Open will address player revenue. He pointed out a significant disparity in expected earnings, noting that while the players' goal is 22%, they are currently projected to receive only 15% at Roland Garros. Sinner explained that the players' status as independent contractors, rather than a unionized group, complicates their bargaining power. While acknowledging that a complete boycott of the Grand Slams appears unrealistic given the current climate, as lower-ranked players would not universally support such a move, Sinner firmly asserted that it is unfair for the Grand Slams to disregard player concerns. He called for the tournaments to partner with the players to develop a mutually acceptable solution. Tennis world number 1 Jannik Sinner has joined a growing movement among top tennis players, calling for increased respect and better financial compensation from major tournaments. Sinner has voiced concerns regarding the prize money at Grand Slams, specifically highlighting Roland Garros, arguing that the current increases are insufficient given the rise in tournament revenue. Speaking at a press conference ahead of his Italian Open debut, Sinner acknowledged the broader dissatisfaction within the sport. He stated that the core issue is a lack of respect, asserting, "It's more about respect. I think we give much more than what we are getting back. It's not only for the top players, it's for all of us players from men's and women's side." Sinner elaborated that a letter sent by the top 10 men and top 10 women regarding their desired conditions has not yet yielded a satisfactory conclusion. He drew a parallel to other sports, suggesting that top athletes should expect prompt responses and meetings, stating, "Talking in other sports, if the top athletes, they send important letters, I truly believe that within 48 hours you have not only a response, but you also have a meeting." This sentiment aligns with an informal alliance known as Project Red Eye, which includes protests from top ATP and WTA players demanding better terms. While Sinner expressed caution regarding predictions of potential boycotts of Grand Slams, he firmly believes the current situation requires action. Meanwhile, Novak Djokovic, whose union initiated similar prize increase protests in the U.S. Open and Australian Open last year, is not part of Project Red Eye. However, Djokovic expressed support for the ongoing dialogue, acknowledging that the increased conversations are necessary because the player's position within the Grand Slam and tour structures is not where it needs to be. Top tennis players, including Jannik Sinner and Aryna Sabalenka, have intensified their criticism regarding the prize money distribution at Grand Slam tournaments. Sinner recently suggested a boycott of the majors, following Sabalenka's strong objections to insufficient prize money increases in later stages of these events. However, not all top players share this sentiment. Mark Petchey and Coco Vandeweghe argue that the criticism should be directed more toward the ATP and WTA Tour themselves. On the Tennis Channel, Vandeweghe and Petchey suggested that stars like Sinner and Sabalenka should focus their attention on the tour, pointing out disparities in revenue sharing. Petchey highlighted the disproportionate reliance on Grand Slams for player earnings, noting that 62% of the men's top 100 prize money originates from the majors, representing only 14% of their total season play. He also pointed to low payouts at lower-tier events, such as $6,500 for a first-round loss at a 250 event. Vandeweghe contended that the tour have failed players more significantly than the Grand Slams, asserting that while the majors have increased prize money and opportunities, the tour have neglected lower-ranked players. She also raised concerns about revenue sharing from specific tournaments and pointed to issues with agent representation and commingling on the boards. The controversy extends to the Masters Series, which has been expanded to 2-week formats starting in the 2025 season to boost ticket sales. This change has drawn criticism, with players like Carlos Alcaraz and Sinner expressing a preference for the ATP Tour to revert to its original format, citing concerns over player recovery and focus during longer events.